Okay, so when I answered, I explained basically what the project is, that it was me just asking her about her experience with a historical event. She asked me which event I chose, and I told her I chose the Vietnam War. She said, wow, that's a really big event. And then I asked her my first question. I said, what was your life like leading up to my grandfather's enlistment in the Vietnam War? She said that she was a student at a religious college and she was also working, and she spent a lot of time hanging out with her friends. Later, she explained that she wasn't really that involved in politics and that she didn't really pay a lot of attention to the news because she was very busy with her own life at home. However, she was aware of the war because of my grandfather's role in the war. After that, I asked her how old she was when my grandfather enlisted in the war voluntarily. And she said that she was between 21 and 23 years old. And she explained again that she was in college. She is young. And then I asked her what her experience was during the war as a young woman and also the wife of a soldier. She said that she passed the time by spending time with family and friends, and that distracted her from how much she really missed my grandfather when he was at war. But she was just working, she answered it kind of the same. And then I asked her if she was involved in the feminist movement at all, and what her thoughts were on movements like the feminist movement and the hippie movement. And she said that she was not involved in this movement at all, but she did appreciate at the time and now the change that they were able to create, even though some of the other movements she thought were a little bit radical and kind of went overboard with the measures that they took to get their message across. I asked her what her opinions were on the feminists, and she said that both now and then she thinks that feminists are making great change. However, she said now that feminists have kind of lost their purpose and they're not as prevalent, in her opinion. And then I asked her what her opinion was on the draft, and she said that she wasn't really sure if the draft is a good or a bad thing, but her experience with people who had gone through the draft and gone to war involuntarily was not a positive one, and she said that those people had gone through a lot of pain and suffering. And I asked her what her opinion was on people who tried to escape the draft, and she said that she didn't really have a problem with those people, and she actually agreed with them. She said that my grandfather really disagreed with the draft, and if there was another draft, would have sent my uncle to Canada to escape the draft, and she encouraged him to do the same with his son. She also explained that my uncle Christopher had switched branches of the military multiple times to kind of escape the draft and to have to get trained multiple times so that he wouldn't have to get sent over to Vietnam to fight in the war, which I found to be super interesting. She also said that a lot of other people in her family had kind of been very against the draft, and that she agreed with those people too. Then I asked her how her opinion has changed if there was a draft today, what she would think about it, and she said her opinion hadn't really changed, that she still thinks drafts are a very negative thing, and that having seen the effect that it had on people during the Vietnam War, even though the draft would be different now, she just wouldn't want anyone to go through that. She also said that my grandfather enlisted in the war around 1968, and that she, at the time, since she was in religious school and she was working, she was not involved in any of the drug culture at that time, but she had mentioned, I don't really know if this is true, but she had mentioned that people who were fighting in Vietnam were using drugs to distract themselves from the PTSD that and like the horrible things that they were experiencing there. I don't know if that's true, but if so, I thought I found that to be interesting, and she said that she understood why they would use drugs because it was clearly a horrible experience, but she said that she was not involved with drugs or anything like that because she said that her father didn't even allow her to go like into bars. Like if they ordered a pizza from a bar, she wasn't allowed to go to the bar, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, that's pretty much all she said. So